But some of them, go on and do it themselves, do, serially one after another. And then the big guys, sometimes, they've been in the country long enough that they are now collecting their own land leases and doing their own prospecting. Now, the other bucket is the electric utilities themselves. So companies like Portland General Electric, Pacific Power, and these are really two of the early movers in our industry. And these are the utilities that have decided that, this wind stuff might be real. It's mature enough that I'm not afraid of the technology anymore, and my regulators are forcing me to do it anyway. So instead of just buying electricity from Horizon, I'm actually going to build my own wind park, and I'm going to own it just like I own a natural gas plant. The breakdown right now is about 15% of the turbines installed in the country are installed directly by utilities, and about 85% are installed by independents who are selling power to utilities in one way or another. I think utilities are going to be a rising fraction of the whole, but I don't think it's ever going to be a 90% utility market. I think they don't all have the risk appetite. Some of them don't own generation anyway. For Vestas, one of our characteristics is that we're a global company. So we like working with the global customers because we can put together agreements that cover the US, Brazil, Spain, Turkey, and really leverage that. But that's not our only kind of customer. 3 years ago, if you'd asked our customers what makes your life hard, right? So say 2008, they would have said, what makes my life hard is that this industry is growing so fast that I can't find enough qualified people, and somebody down the road pays my service tech 50 cents an hour more, and I lose them after I trained them. And those guys at Vestas won't pick up the phone because they've got a better customer somewhere else. And where am I going to get the turbines? And how am I going to move fast enough to make all the money I want to make in this market? And in fact, I don't want to be too flippant here, but it wasn't that hard to sell wind turbines. We had a great brand, we had great technology, there was more demand than there was supply, and the amount of turbines we could sell was pretty much limited by how big our factories were.
Taking orders.
Well, there was an aspect of that. Things have changed, and they've changed for 3 reasons. One is, as most of you noticed, by the end of 2008, the global economy was in the crapper. There was a lot less demand for electricity. And our second thing is that, as I said, our customer base was changing. So instead of being mom and pop, they were now big global companies that were a lot more aggressive. They were smarter and bigger than we were in some cases. They had better lawyers than we did. And the third thing is that, the competition was coming. And we were building factories, but so was everybody else. And all of a sudden, there was more supply than there was demand, right? So things really changed. The economy is going to come back, but the balance is never going to go back to taking orders, as far as I can tell. The competition is now stiffer. There's going to be competition from Korean and Chinese manufacturers once they bring their quality and their safety standards up. It's coming. So there was a time when guys who were trying to build projects just couldn't get enough turbines, and they couldn't get top-tier turbines, so they were settling for turbines that were perceived as less sophisticated technically, less bankable. But certainly that changed last year. That changed 2 years ago. I will say for Vestas at least, last year was our best sales year ever. Right, we sold more turbines globally, and we signed more orders in Canada and the US than we ever had. So we think we're climbing out of it, and we feel pretty good. But you're right, there was a time when there was a shortage.